Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is, I think, the biggest issue in our national lives that is reported on, spoken about, and debated around the least. It is the area of law and order. We did our best last year in an August campaign to try and raise the salience of the issue, and we are in no doubt as a party that Britain now is lawless. I guess the reason it's so little discussed is that for the Labour and Conservative parties to enter into this debate, they would have to admit their own culpability. But whether it's the streets of London, where men dare not wear watches and women dare not wear jewelleries, to what is happening and the constant living in fear that we see in our rural communities, everyone knows the state of law and order is considerably worse than it was 5 or 10 years ago. And yet, senior journalists and commentators rely on the England and Wales Crime Survey, a survey that is put through doors and filled in with a pencil and paper, and they say, look at the figures of this survey and it will show you that crime at all levels is falling. That is because it is a completely outdated way of measuring it. No, we are living through a breakdown in society, and it is very, very serious. Now, prison sentencing has proved to be Andy Burnham's first big test as Prime Minister. In the wake of the PC Harper case, the Prime Minister's instincts were, well, of course, they shouldn't be released early. But once he's told the practical facts of life, he has to back away and back down. So at least we are having a proper debate about this. But we need to face some serious facts. During 14 years of Conservative government, through mass immigration, especially the Boris wave, the net population of the country rose by 6 million people. And they only built 455 new prison places. So early release isn't some new idea that this Labour government's just come up with. It was the Conservative governments that introduced it. And for all we hear on the radio and see on the telly, Conservative spokesmen and women on this issue, perhaps we better remind them that it was the Conservatives that gave early release to 158,000 prisoners. So they were very much the architects of this mess. And certainly it's true that Labour have inherited a very, very difficult situation. But they don't appear to have the imagination or the will to solve it. And that is where keeping criminals behind bars, that is where this document comes in. Because, once again, Reform are proposing practical policy solutions to difficult national issues. And quite often when we do this, we find within a few weeks, one or more of the other parties tend to follow our lead. So let's begin with the over 10,000 foreign national offenders that are currently in Britain's prisons. That figure is rising all the time. In fact, our expenditure on this is 50% higher than it was as recently as 2019. This is really quite straightforward. We send people back to their country of origin, so it needs a phone call with Edi Rama from Albania, etc. And if they refuse, we then send foreign national offenders off to third parties. Kosovo is perhaps one good example currently being used by Sweden. And we are organising a trip to El Salvador. And by the way, not all of the prisons, the cages that you've seen on television, and Lee Anderson and Vanessa Frake, the former prison governor, they will both be visiting El Salvador soon. To house a foreign national offender in El Salvador will be half the cost of housing a foreign national offender in this country and will give us more prison spaces. Add to that a concept that we did announce last year, but perhaps bears repetition, the concept of Nightingale prisons. We did it during the pandemic with Nightingale hospitals, and we're confident and we believe we can have 12,000 Nightingale hospital places within the first 18 months of a reform government. Underpinning this are some basic principles: that dangerous criminals must serve their full term. The public demands nothing less. That crimes such as child rape deserve full life sentences. And lower down the scale, because of Labour's recent legislation, anybody that is given a prison sentence of less than a year is now highly unlikely to serve any prison time at all, which is frankly opening the door to shoplifting and lower levels of burglary. And we insist that every single shoplifting incident should be prosecuted. And you know, there are big benefits in keeping serial criminals behind bars. Sweden have a comprehensive survey showing that 60% of violent crime in Sweden is committed by 1% of the population. And the figures in this country are not dissimilar. Repeated criminals, those who cannot be rehabilitated, and by the way, we would all say for first-time offenders, every attempt should be made within prisons to educate and rehabilitate. But when people pass beyond that measure, the never-ending cycle of causing violence and distress to others, of going to prison, of serving a third or 40% of a sentence, and then coming out and doing it again, is having a very, very grievous effect on large numbers of people in society. Prison is there in the first case to rehabilitate, but in the second, it's there to punish, and in the third, it's there to protect the rest of society. So I commend keeping criminals behind bars, and I would ask Zia Yusuf to give us more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Britain's justice system is broken, and reform will fix it. Under changes made by Labour and the Tories, when someone is sentenced to prison by a judge in this country, they only serve a fraction of their sentence. A reform government will reverse Burnham's soft-on-crime changes to ensure that dangerous criminals serve the entirety of their prison sentence. We will deport foreign criminals to serve their sentences abroad rather than in British soil, and rapidly build Nightingale prisons to create the necessary prison capacity. For proof of just how broken Britain's justice system is, look no further than the fact that the killers of Police Constable Andrew Harper are about to be released early from jail. On the night of the 15th of August 2019, Lizzie Harper received a knock at the door. She expected her husband, Andrew, to walk through it after a long shift. Instead, she was met by uniformed officers delivering the devastating news that the man she had married just 4 weeks prior had been killed in the line of duty. Lizzie later described that moment of catastrophic loss. She said that everything she knew and every ounce of peace had been cruelly robbed from her. The couple had been together for 13 years, having first met when they were teenagers. During his funeral, she remembered Andrew as a childhood sweetheart, recalling how he used to pass her notes during their school days. She spoke of a love that grew stronger every day, binding them together since they were children. They were about to go on their honeymoon. But on that night, nearly 7 years ago, everything changed. Albert Bowers and Jesse Cole dragged Police Constable Harper behind their car for over a mile across country roads at speeds of up to 60 miles an hour. He suffered catastrophic injuries and died at the scene. The men who brutally killed him are about to be released early, along with thousands of others. Just imagine the pain for P.C. Harper's widow and his other loved ones. And make no mistake, this mad policy of releasing criminals early has directly led to more British people being killed. Take Liam Matthews, who was released early from jail last year and within hours savagely killed 26-year-old Lewis Bell with a chisel. Labour's Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has already released a staggering 70,000 prisoners early. And it's not just Labour. The Tories released thousands of prisoners early too, including murderers and rapists. It was the Tories that created the prison capacity crisis. They imported 6 million net new people through immigration and, as Nigel said, built 455 net new prison places to cope. Not 455,000, 455. Reform will bring justice back to Britain. We will change the law so that those who commit serious crimes like murder, manslaughter, rape, and serious violence serve their full sentences. Unbelievably, there are over 10,000 foreign nationals in British jails. We will deport all of them, sending them to serve their sentences in countries like El Salvador or Kosovo if their home countries will not take them back. And we will use that space to ensure that serious criminals stay where they belong, behind bars. Because this is a national emergency. British people are literally being killed because there is not enough space in our prisons. And that's why a reform government will embark on the fastest expansion of the prison estate since the Victorian era here at home. We will rapidly build capacity. We will take advantage of new prefabricated modular technology and build 12,000 prison places in the form of Nightingale prisons on Ministry of Defence land, and the Army will be called in to assist. Together, these measures will create an additional 22,000 prison places compared to Andy Burnham's plans. And this will mean we can make the following promise to the British people. Under Prime Minister Farage, killers, rapists, and violent thugs will never be released a day early. And this vastly expanded prison capacity will also enable us to ensure that those sentenced to jail terms of less than a year actually go to jail, overturning Labour's shameful attempt to effectively decriminalise theft and shoplifting. The British people are being tormented by convicted criminals who should be in jail. We live in a country that is becoming ever more lenient on those who break our laws and ever harsher on those who follow them. All that changes under a reform government. When Nigel Farage is Prime Minister, those who commit grave crimes will never be released early. We will keep them in jail where they belong. And we will keep the great British people safe. Thank you very much.